Hey guys, this is Miss Madison, and this is your daily dose of English. So today we're going to be covering just a couple things. Want to make sure we know how to cite, and then we're going to practice paraphrasing and quoting other people's work. So first, let's get started on just MLA citation. So I think I've mentioned before, MLA is what you use to cite for like humanities and English papers. They tend to put the context, which is on the page number. So you just want to make sure you're including the page number for your MLA cites. Let's look at an example of that. So here we have three examples of how you can cite using MLA. You have Wordsworth. You have that up front. This is the guy, like that's his last name. Wordsworth stated that romantic poetry was marked by spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. Notice how they put the period not inside the quotation marks. They put it at the end after the parentheses. And notice how this right here, that 263, is a page number. Now, if you're working with online citations, you can just put a 1 here, but just hold that place number with a 1 so that I know that you know, and in the future you know how to do it. You just have a page number right there. Notice if you don't introduce the quote with the author's last name, then you just have to put it in the parentheses, Wordsworth. Notice there's no comma here. In the older version of MLA, you'll see papers that have a comma, but we don't do that anymore. We just have it Wordsworth, page number, period after the parentheses. Here's another example of introducing, just sort of a paraphrase. Wordsworth extensively explored the role of emotion in the creative process, just like paraphrasing the gist of what he did. And then you have the page number where he did that in parentheses. So that is MLA. There's also APA style. And the only real difference with APA style is that instead of having a number here, instead of having a page number, you have the year. So it would be like, 2011 or whatever. So that's the only difference if you're doing APA. I recommend APA if you're going to be doing more science type journals or studying science when you go to college, just kind of getting used to APA for that. Okay, good. So that is how to cite. Make sure you guys are citing correctly. That's like a big part of what we're working on. So making sure that you're introducing who says it or putting that in the parentheses at the end. And then today we're going to be looking at how do we have those academic conversations. So what they say and then what you say. So it's important when we're looking at creating new information in the world, other people have their information and you're going to use that and you're going to build off of it, and you might be disagreeing with it or you might be expanding on it, and that's really up to you, but you want to engage with other people's knowledge. And so we're just going to practice like how do we talk when we do that. So for academics type of work, we always make sure that we're referencing who said it and putting what they said in quotation marks if we're doing a direct cite. So you just want to make sure you're actually framing the quotes. Don't just drop a quote in. It's nice to kind of give us a little heads up. Hey, this argument is exemplified by so-and-so, and then you put your quote. Like kind of lead into it a little bit, as prominent philosopher Smith puts it, and then you have your quote. Just making sure you're kind of leading in, like what is this quote going to be about, or what is that quote doing for your argument? That's a great way to do introductions to the quotes. Making sure that you're also addressing the other side, so that you might have people who are arguing one thing and then you're talking about how they don't do it right? And that just shows that you have a higher level of thinking and that you're really kind of reflecting on it. Agreeing and disagreeing with other people is a good skill to practice, and it's like using your own thoughts. So yeah, so be sure to like incorporate that as well, like the parts you agree with, the parts you don't agree with, being specific about it, making nuanced observations. This is a topic you guys are familiar with. You've debated it, you know it pretty well. So you probably know the ins and outs, and you can make those really meaningful and clear in your writing. So this is just posted under today's agenda. If you want to click onto that, you can see those examples are there for you, just to kind of remember how do I introduce quotes and how do I talk about other people's writing. So we're going to look at an example today. This is Malcolm Gladwell's Tipping Point. He wrote a whole book about this, and we're just really looking at how he talks in his essays, incorporating other people's work. So I want us to take a few minutes just to go ahead and read this. This is from the Tipping Point. Just take a few minutes to go ahead and read through these first few paragraphs. If you guys can click into it, you'll find it under Classroom, and it's under Research Essay Agenda. You just scroll down to day 3, April 1st, and you'll see Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point. So click into that and take a few minutes just to read it, and I'll pause this video and just kind of read it so you can do. All right, guys, so thanks for making sure you actually read. All right, so this is a piece that is talking about rules for epidemics, like how do these things get transferred? And we have, you can see he has this, he kind of leads into the topic here, like how does it spread and like what does that take place and how does that happen? His first body paragraph here, John Zellerman of Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, an expert on sexually transmitted diseases, has another explanation, the breakdown of medical services in the city's poorest neighborhoods. So he's introducing the main topic here, and then he has the quote from John Zellerman. Notice for you guys, you would actually put the page number or the date at the end of this quote. He doesn't do that, but just kind of notice that you would do that. If he was publishing this, he would be doing that too. And then in his next paragraph, he kind of goes off to talk about this, a different explanation. So this is where, I'm sorry, he has his quote up here, and then he goes off on his own ideas about it. So you can almost see this as like one paragraph in your research essay. You have your main point, you have your quote, and then you have your explanation. Notice how he uses cool words like the disease erupted and it began spilling out in the inner city up the streets and highways that connect those neighborhoods to the rest of the city. So this kind of explanation and describing is helpful. It helps us unpack the quote that he had before. And then he gets on to the next theory. Notice how he has a clear topic sentence. There's a third theory which belongs to John Potterat, one of the country's leading epidemiologists. And he then goes on to explain his theory that in the mid-1990s, he points out that the city of Baltimore embarked on a highly publicized policy of dynamiting old 1960s style public housing, and these demolitions actually were huge projects, and these were centers for crime and infectious disease. At the same time, people began to move out of the old row houses in the east and west Baltimore as those began to deteriorate as well. So he's kind of elaborating on like this fact that took place. Then he has a quote from Potterat. Notice how he introduces the quote straight up, and then he puts a comma inside the quote marks here, and then he has Potterat says. So that's a great way to both include kind of in the stream of the thinking the last name of the author, so you have the quote, comma, they say, and then he kind of describes like what that quote is about. So just kind of pay attention to how he talks about other people's writing and how he incorporates that kind of seamlessly into his own writing. You don't want to just throw the quote in all the time. It's nice to kind of make that a part of what you're saying. Okay, good. So yeah, so just kind of pay attention to how he engages a conversation with other people's findings. He has a pretty fun style. He's both academic, but he's also making sure that we can really understand and vividly picture it. This is an argument, and it's also a reflection. It's a great example of academic style of writing. Malcolm Gladwell does a good job with that kind of stuff. So what I want you guys to do next is you're going to paraphrase and quote from one of the paragraph, from one of the sources for your debate/research papers. So you guys are going to be just picking a piece of evidence that you know you want to put in your research paper anyway. It can be a paragraph that you've already started, and we just want to practice how does that look. We want to identify the author's name and the title in the topic sentence, and then paraphrase what they have to say. So you don't have to put it necessarily in quote marks. You can just paraphrase and then briefly explain each reason and example from what they're talking about. So take a piece of evidence and just practice paraphrasing it, but also introducing it with the author's name and title. So doing things like Stouffer argues and Stouffer believes to clarify whose opinion you're summarizing. Notice how we use their last name. We never refer to first names when we're doing academic writing. It's always the last name. So we're going to practice just using author tags to introduce and summarize a piece of evidence you're going to be using anyway in your papers. And you can post this on Classroom, and I'll be checking for that. So that's the sort of small assignment for today. The bigger assignment is to literally just start drafting your research papers. So you have your outlines, and now you're just fleshing it out more, and you're starting to actually write the papers. So by the end of today, you should have roughly 1 to 2 pages, and tomorrow we'll have 3 to 4 pages, and then by Friday we'll have 5 to 6 pages. So the minimum for this is it's a 4 to 6 page research paper. So we're looking to see that you have at least 4 pages by the end of the day on Friday, and we're working on that today. So we're starting to actually draft these up today, tomorrow, and Friday. On Friday I'll be checking, so I'll be checking to make sure you guys have your drafts turned in at least 4 pages by the end of the day on Friday. So by midnight on Friday. So if you guys have questions, I'm here from 9 till noon every day. So just email me and I'll get right back to you. I hope you're having a good day, and I'll see you soon.